Welcome all. This is the Free Zone Communiqué, episode 53. And today we're talking about AI, that brave new AI world. To paraphrase the fictitious Admiral Painter, quote, "This business will get out of control. It'll get out of control and we'll be lucky to live through it," end quote. As I've reported here previously, even people who created and engineer AI and created the algorithms don't know how the learning occurs. They don't know the limits to the learning, if there are any. They don't understand the long-term process of advanced machine learning once it starts.
This is the Free Zone Communiqué, transmitting from Virginia's unoccupied sector. If you think smart cities, DEI, censorship, government intrusion, bug paste, and other left-wing nonsense are no longer a possibility, think again. We've won one election with slim majorities. Our work to rebuild a free and sane America has just begun.
I will link an article in the footnotes below regarding Trump's AI proposal and the bills that may come from it. DJT says he wants to regulate AI, but nowhere in the Constitution is he granted the power to do that. All powers the government has are enumerated in the Constitution. If they aren't listed, the government doesn't have that power. If Congress writes a law giving him such power, that law would be unconstitutional on its face. Not that such restriction ever meant anything in D.C., and there's the rub. Remember Robert F. Kennedy's maxims of totalitarianism. Once you grant a power to a government, it will never relinquish it without a fight. If a government can abuse a power, it will. And you cannot comply your way out of totalitarianism. This isn't to say DJT will necessarily abuse the power of AI. He may be honestly motivated. I believe he is. But his successors eventually will take advantage. Who could resist such power over everything? I'll give you a detailed real-world example of what I'm talking about. Then we can apply the lessons to assertive government control of AI.
Please hang up and try again.
At the bottom of the page, I'll leave links where you can find all our stuff. Wherever you get to P4B in the Free Zone, please follow, subscribe, leave reviews and comments, and share. This is how we grow. I'll leave a link to where you can support the P4B directly, so you too can be a political party pooper. But the most pleasure you can get by supporting us is to shop Po River. I'll leave samples and links for that as well. Thanks to all our supporters and subscribers. Look at what the government has done with healthcare. That started with people shouting, "There ought to be a law." In lieu of cash, and in order to save some of the ridiculous taxes of the pre-JFK days, some well-paid executives told employers to provide non-cash benefits. Company cars, generous expense accounts, even company planes. Eventually, somebody thought to provide life and health insurance instead of cash. And that is where things started to go sideways. When the unions caught wind of this gimme for the executives, they thought the rank and file were automatically entitled to the same thing. Never mind they didn't pay the confiscatory taxes the executives were paying, the union bosses saw it as another way to fatten up their own paychecks. So far, not so bad. Insurance back then was for catastrophic illnesses and injuries, not stitches and shots. The idea was to keep you from going broke if you got seriously ill. Soon, insurance as a standard of being employed became the norm. As the population felt more and more entitled, they started to question why everything medical wasn't covered under medical insurance. There ought to be a law. Well, the political whores, being what they are, and not caring what they knew government meddling would do to the cost of insurance, started getting bills passed to get this and that added to the things insurance companies must cover. These were called mandates or mandated coverage. The immediate result was insurance became more expensive. Insurance compensated by increasing the number of things they would deny. Employers obviously would pay an employer a little less if he had to pay a little more to insure them. Much to the joy of lawyers and political whores, insurance policies became ever more Byzantine. The mandates got so out of hand that the idea of government control over the insurance industry actually started to appeal to the stupid people. B.J. Bill's wife took a shot in the 90s. There weren't enough stupid people to pass it yet, and obviously not enough goodies for either cronies or politicians in the deal. By 2012, there were enough stupid people, and Barry O's people devised a plan so opaque and complex and so full of goodies for politicians, who were also exempt from the requirements, and so attractive to the winners picked to provide the insurance, that the idea passed. It didn't pass legally. If that had been done legally, the bill never would have passed and never would have made it out of conference. Pelosi, the snake, declared that Congress deemed to have voted it out. There is no such thing. And the bill passed with the first massive abuse of the reconciliation process. This is a process by which Congress irons out the nickels and dimes of a spending bill, smooths over the rounding errors. But in this case, our utterly corrupt legislature used reconciliation to take over 1/6 of our economy. Today, reconciliation has supplanted the 60-vote rule on massive spending. I'm sure the record shows that there were honest people warning that reconciliation, as written, was going to come back and bite us on the ass. The immediate result of Obamacare was massive increases in premiums for people using legitimate insurance, and massive increase in spending for those who enrolled in the government insurance giveaways. The Affordable Care Act was so affordable, Congress was forced almost immediately to authorize subsidies to help people pay for their insurance, their affordable insurance. We're fighting over renewing that right now. What we should be doing is writing a bill to get the government completely out of the insurance business and let the free market bring prices down to a reasonable level. You would see costs plummet. But the government will not give up their power over the insurance industry voluntarily, as we've established. So, unless we take it back by force, we will never see real-world, manageable healthcare costs ever again. And so it will be with AI and the power it promises to those who control it, if indeed it will be controllable. That remains to be seen. And by the time we find that out, it may be too late. Smart cities will become inevitable. You'll hardly notice it occurring. City, state, and federal government will add cameras here, sensors there. Certain businesses will be incentivized to come into your local area, others to relocate elsewhere. This will be for the greater good and efficiency, they'll say. You will drive electric cars and little hybrid beaters. This, you will be told, is to save the environment. And why would you need a big, scary car? Everything you need is a 15-minute walk from your apartment. In the meantime, more and more controls will be foisted on the system. More cameras, more sensors for your security. Eventually, everyone will have their own specific work schedule because that which watches everything will have calculated the most efficient way to move everyone through the smart city. Central bank digital currency, CBDC, will be certain in this scenario. You'll be told it's just to make purchasing power more convenient. The system will know what you've added to your cart and bada bing, off you go. But the businesses won't be moved to create self-contained villages where you won't need to travel more than a few minutes to meet all your needs, as they are recognized by the AI god. This will be simply tracking and control. They won't care about your convenience. The CBDC won't be for your convenience either. It too will be controllable. If you buck the system or you don't behave as the algorithm dictates, you will find your purchasing power restricted until you fall back in line. The cars won't help the environment. Certain electric cars won't. They are among the worst things we've ever created in terms of environmental responsibility. No, they will eventually tell you, because their algorithm said so, that you cannot travel more than X miles from your assigned enclave. And if you do, OnStar will shut down your older car. AI will take over and redirect your electric car to an authorized space. Do this more than once, and you'll see your CBDC account punished. The backbone of smart cities will be surveillance and control provided by AI. Everything you do outside of breathing and taking a dump will be factored by AI. Everything will eventually, for the greater good of course, be heavily throttled by the system in favor of those in control, who will also be exempt from it. But these electronic prisons are just one example of how AI will infest every aspect of our lives. It goes way beyond just how you will live in your smart city. But those who wield the power, those with access to the AI controls, will have power to do it all. Don't take my word for it. The Davos WEF cult has at one time or another laid out this very same program, along with a long list of other abuses. They meet regularly with mayors from all over the world, dozens of them from all major cities. One of those gatherings is called Urban Transformation Summits. At these conclaves, they discuss doing the very things I listed above. They're serious. And the Davos crowd think they, as elites, bankers, politicians, Hollywood showfolk, mobbed up union bosses, think they should rule over all this insanity. They also say they will be exempt from those rules as they are the elites. John Kerry, one of this band of lunatics, calls himself and the others a select group of human beings. I didn't select those assholes, did you? But it is their intention to run your lives. This kind of social engineering is not something we can try and then dump if we don't like it. Remember, the first rule, once a government gains power, it won't give it up. Now, put into the hands of someone, even one who you may consider upstanding and honest, the ability to have a docile society where destabilizing behavior can be spotted and eliminated quicker than a game of whack-a-mole. The temptation to play God and create utopia will be overwhelming. In the hands of lesser people, almost all of the political class, any such power absolutely would redound to the worst behavior. Look at all the abuses in just the insurance example above. The thing that will keep that pig in place is money washing back and forth between the politicians and the insurance companies. All adjustments to date have been in favor of preserving the pig. Look at education. Look at Social Security, from which The government has looted every single dime. Review the history of the Obama administration with Fast and Furious, smash and grab, and the IRS persecuting political opponents. And that is a very short list. This is the second maxim in play. If a government can abuse a power, it will. With just the few programs and scandals mentioned today, would you trust those very same people, utterly submissive to Davos, to not take advantage of AI for their own power, for a chance at absolute power? And we can't forget the third maxim. You cannot comply your way out of totalitarianism. This is all intended to happen by many of the people we're talking about. Once your town or business or political group is hooked by the system, there will be no way around it. Your smartphone, Alexa, Ring doorbell, or your security system if you have one, your laptop, your car, they will all rat you out if you deviate from the master plan. You will be a serf. Rebellion will not be a viable option unless you could do it naked in the woods. So you must rebel preemptively. Before your town puts up another red light camera or security camera on a street, you fight back. You force them to define the way it is to be used so narrowly that a red light camera can't bust you for driving nude with a joint in your hand. The law you insist on will say that camera is for red light compliance only. That camera will never be networked beyond the local police station. Before any bank buys up another tract of land or the town has more low-income housing built, you go to the zoning authority and fight to rezone every place you possibly can to not be rental property. Make sure there will be no area where the smart city concept is involved. And tell the banks they can't do real estate business in your town. Fight to make sure your whole town remains autonomous from any city, state, or national network of electronic passive wide net monitoring. Well, what about the safety of our streets, right? Won't this stuff be there for our security? No, it will not. While some sense of security may be a factor, this stuff will be networked to control you. A camera can't save your life. It can only give people something to look at after you've been beaten, robbed, or shot. Then they might find the perp. That's a side benefit. The intent of AI and widespread monitoring will be to keep you in line. Real security is knowing your neighbors. Make friends. Walk around your street. Keep contact with those around you. And that is the antithesis of the smart city prison system. Be a good neighbor and fight like hell to never be a good serf. Carry on smartly. Cheers.
Please tell a friend about the Free Zone Communiqué. We live and die with the share and subscribe buttons. Please use affiliate and sponsor buttons to support our work. Thank you very much for joining us today.